Peace. What's happening, family? It's your favorite leather craftsman, the Leather Cowboy, right here, Premier Leather Crafters. Let's make us a Ranger belt. Now, this is one of my most favorite belts that I enjoy making these. But not only are we going to make it a Ranger style belt, we're going to make it an inlaid Ranger style, which means we're going to take out some pieces in the belt and then we're going to inlay them in. Now, I have some leftover pythons. This is what you're going to need in order to make a Ranger style belt. You're going to need a traditional belt blank. Now, as well as you're going to need a liner to go on the inside because your inlays are going to be glued to that liner. Traditionally, everything's going to be the same as a regular belt, especially if you're aligning the belts. There are few people that actually know origins, they know how it was started, they know what the functionality is and the purpose. And just to give you guys a brief history, the Ranger belts were made popular by the Texas Rangers. That's where it gets its name from. The Texas Rangers needed a belt that was not only functional, but they needed one that supported the weight of all of their weapons. Now, if we go all the way back to the cowboy days in the 1800s, those old Colts, the revolvers, the old Western guns, those guns actually had some weight to it. And then you had your bullets, your bandolero, where you put your bullets into. It had to hold up all of that. Some cases, two pistols, as well as extra bullets. Those belts had to be constructed, but it wasn't as bulky or restrictive or wore you down as much as the traditional holster rigs of the cowboy days. Now, what people use the Ranger belts for is more or less of a style. They're looking into it for the overall look. Now, one thing that I do now, I also jazz them up a little bit as by doing the inlay. You can tool these belts just as much as you can tool any other belts. I was in Tandy this weekend and I was talking with the manager that's in there, and he was expressing that he can never get his Ranger belts to come out right. Through the conversation, it always comes down to the belt blank itself, the base, and positioning where your billets are going to go. I'm going to give you guys the cheat code for this Ranger belt. First of all, as always, get you a poster board. Now, it doesn't matter what width you cut your belt blank. It doesn't matter what you cut your belt blank with. The billet, you want to be at least, traditionally, the billets are no more than 3/4 width because the buckle is not your traditional buckle because all of this goes on top. Go back to your handy poster board. This is one reason why I only use one because I want my ends on my billets to match. So I'll get one shaped and cut out perfectly. The buckle end, all I do is just fold that back to 3 inches, just like such, and I trace and trim the same exact shape onto the buckle end. So that way I know that my buckle end and the belt hole end, where the holes are going, is going to be the exact same shape. So this is why I only cut one. You can cut two if you want to. It's really unnecessary because all you do is just fold this back and then you're going to measure off 3 inches. And now that is standard. It's still the same as a regular belt. If I was to make this a regular belt, I'm still going to come back 3 inches from the end. And this is where my fold for my buckle would be. See? So a Ranger belt is just not folded, but you're still going to put that billet right there as the same, your buckle end, right? So this is going to come all the way down to the end and then your buckle. So if the buckle was on this, you want your buckle to be on the tip of this, your belt blank. All you want to do to measure this right is to put your buckle on there and then come up with your buckle end part, your billet. And then this is where we're going to trace out this part. Let's just do it this way so we guys can see it. All right. So you would just lay this on top of your belt blank and trace this out, right? So this is where to go as if the belt was there. This is exactly how you want to set it up. The tip of your buckle is going to go to the end of the belt. And here's the fold into your billet on your buckle end. And then we're going to take a pencil and trace this out. If I'm going to use an 1.25 inch belt blank, I would just cut this down to 1 inch. And then I still would taper this end off to 3/4 because your belt buckle is going to be on 3/4. You would just cut this part of the billet and narrow that down to 1 inch. On the opposite end, on the belt loop end, it's still going to measure just like a traditional belt. So the tip of the belt is going to go here and match, and then the center hole is the true size. So I'm going to lay my center hole right there. So your belt loop end is going to be just like this. And then we're going to trace this out onto the belt blank, because we're going to stitch this inside onto your belt blank. And now one key thing I want to add: draw you a center line. Just barely scribe you a center line down the belt. So this way, when you trace this onto the belt blank, you're going to scribe that onto the belt blank, you will know then that everything will match perfectly. Now trace this here, and don't worry about marking now you can if you want to, if it's going to help you. But the main part is, if you get this part correct, then this is the only part that you have to line up, right? And then the belt will still buckle onto this billet. Now the inlaid part, well, I'm going to inlay this. I'm going to come back from my center line. Now, if this is the 38, half of 38 is 19. So the center of my belt is going to be 19 inches. So half of that is going to be 9.5. So I'm going to mark my 9.5 mark on both ends, 9.5 from the buckle end. I'm going to go 9.5, and this is going to put me in the center of my inlay. Let's go back to your poster board. Now you can trace and draw whatever kind of trim, any type of shape that you want for your inlay. I just go with the traditional, I just went with the regular oval ends on both sides. And I made this I think I did this about 6 inches. I did 6 inches. So now 3 inches is my center on my inlay. So I'm going to match that exactly with my belt. And I want to make sure that this is going to match up with my line. Everything will all fall in place with that center line on your belt. And then I'm going to trim this part out as well, all the way around. Now, if you have never made an inlaid belt, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're not going to touch this just yet, but this inlaid part, we're going to cut this out with our utility knife. So you're going to cut out this center part, and you're going to keep that, because when we lay this onto our belt liner, we want our inlaid exterior part of the belt to match with the liner part, because we're going to glue. Now you're going to keep this part. Don't throw this away, because I'm going to wrap my snake around that inlaid insert. And we're going to go right back and put this right back into the belt blank. So we're going to do that on both sides and just trace this out. And you still have enough room if the customer want their name in there or not. So you're going to trace this part out. Now, don't throw these away, because the more you do these Ranger inlays, you can create several different patterns on these billets. Just get all of your tooling done before you cut out anything, because if you try to start tooling these with your inlays cut out, is going to weaken the integrity of the belt blank. And what you're seeing now is the belt has already been tooled. I've already tooled it out. I just went with a simple diamond pattern tool that I had. Nothing extravagant or nothing too outrageous or outlandish. I've already cut out my inlays. Here, I'm going to do is going to show you here where I've already scribed my stitching line, and I already have my border and my stitching line all the way down. Even on my inlay, you can see this is my stitching line here. So I'm going to sew this. The way this is going to work is here. I'm just going to set this on and get this pretty much, I'm going to eyeball centering this. I don't want to stretch the leather. I just want to make it natural to give me an idea where my inlays are going to go. Because when I get ready to glue the belt, contact cement the belt blank to this, I am already going to have my inlays pretty much set and glued down as well. Now we're going to grab us a pen, make sure we stay with inside our belt blank. I'm going to mark the ends, but I want to make sure that I stay here. And I want to make sure that my ends are straight enough, good enough, and I'm going to match this just the same. So we're going to mark this here and mark this in here. I've already glued my python to my inlay. Now, one thing that I can give you guys, and you can see where it's over enough to where when I get ready to stitch this, is going to grab this snake skin and make sure that it stays seated. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this down and get it already seated. Now, don't worry about what's overhang or anything like that. Once we trim and get the liner to match the exterior part of the belt, It's all going to be trimmed and hidden. Then when we burnish it, you won't be able to see it anyway. It's going to all insert just like this. And we just want to make sure that you don't get any glue onto your snake skin. You want to go ahead and burnish the inside of your inlay. Take your edge rounder, round off the edges of this, get it all nice, clean, crisp before you glue that down. And this is how, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to set. And there we have it. I've already contact cemented this end of my Ranger inlaid belt. So I left this part undone because I want you guys to see how we're going to set this in here. You can pick up these little brushes at Harbor Freight. I think they're like 39 cents a piece. Go ahead and get your 10 to 20, man. It's a good investment. You can use these over and over again. Good old Wally World, and bought some mineral spirits. So after I glue or use my contact cement, I would soak them with mineral spirits to soften up that glue. And you want to go over to Dollar Tree and buy you a little pack of combs. Great little tip right there to save you a lot of money. Being that this is inlaid, you definitely want to be careful with gluing these little pieces where your inlay go, because you don't want this glue to travel over to your work. Always go wider than the outline, because I glue my snake skin, and I want to make sure I get it spread all the way out, even over my snake too. Now I'm just going to take the dab. Well, let me get the biggest part, contact cement it first. And you just want to make sure that you take your time, as with anything in this leather industry. Take your time. Don't be in a rush. There have been several projects I have worked on to where, you get in that comfort zone. And once you get comfortable, carelessness kicks in. And man, you're almost at the finish line. And then you got a big glob of glue on your work, on the finished piece. There's nothing that fries a leather crafter's eggs like when you're almost done and something from just not paying attention to detail. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we charge so much in this industry, because it's all about the detail. And I'm just going to be very careful with these little thin straps, very careful. But I do want to get some adhesion on here. Now the stitches, when I get ready to saddle stitch this, that's going to pretty much make it set. But I just want the stitching to help it, not really for the purpose of holding it. But I need to get a good little amount on there. All right. And now, while this is getting tacky, I'm going to go ahead and set my inlay down. All right. So, and I've already marked it. So I'm going to go ahead and let my inlay set. Make sure that gets on there like it's supposed to. Press all my snake down. And then I'm going to come back with my brush and I'm going to run me some glue right around the top of that snake, down the sides of it, because I want my sides of my Ranger belt to stick to that. All right. So just be very careful. And if you got too much on there, just go ahead and put you some more onto the belt. It's not going to hurt by gluing this, by putting it back onto the belt either, because like I said, it's just going to help it stick a little bit better. Now, this is why I angled those brushes as well, so I can get right here on the side of that and just pour that down. Beautiful.